Hi everyone, my name is Charlie Griffith. I am the Farming Community Manager for ruumi. We are a satellite grazing company to help farmers with their rotational grazing. So yeah, thank you for coming to the presentation today. So firstly, what we want to achieve at ruumi. We want to make farmers have better decisions and more timely decisions when it comes to their rotational grazing systems. By doing this, there are many benefits: financial, environmental, and other benefits which will help your business. How it works? So ruumi, we use a Sentinel-2 satellite which flies over your your grazing area. It gives a kg dry matter per hectare variation over the fields. This happens about once a week, and in the meantime, between the satellite passes, we use a grass growth model, we have 10 pilot farms, which are taken from, which have weather stations, and each weather station is allocated to the nearest farm with your platform. So here is the dashboard that you see when you come into ruumi. So when you've mapped out your farm, it will come up with the variations. So the darker colours, the more densely covered areas. The lighter covers not as densely covered, and then we can add our animal groups to your rotational platform. This helps understand your grass wedge, so you can manage your supply and demand. When setting up ruumi, it's important that you calibrate your farm as well with a plate meter. This helps with the satellite readings to each individual grazing platform. Oh. Cool. The benefits of ruumi. One, we think we can increase your farm profits with an effective rotational grazing system. You won't have to spend more on supplementary feeds. So all livestock should be able to get their required nutrition from grassland, and also fertiliser. So hitting them residuals will help with the regrowth and spend less on your fertiliser feed. Soil resilience. So by not overgrazing, your roots can penetrate the soil further, increasing the organic matter within the soil, again helping the grass growth. Benefits to the environment, again linked to the roots. The deeper the roots can penetrate, the more carbon they can sequester. So again, with everything that's happening, CO2 sequestering is a big topic at the moment. And more life-work balance. So by having earlier, easier decision making, we believe that you can spend your time doing other things, even if that's on the farm or with family. So yeah, cool. The tech roadmap. So we started out in September 2020 with just satellite images. So we've gone from that 4 readings a month to now. In January, we've incorporated a system where farmers can actually add their covers to compare against ruumi's data. This helps build trust with our system and also helps to calibrate each individual grazing platforms. Again, in February, we got our 10 pilot farms set up with weather stations. This helps, between the satellite readings. So your grazing platform is always up to date with the latest readings. And by the end of June, we're hoping to implement radar technology. This will allow us to see through clouds, which is something that we're really, really excited about. so our data become more readily available and more accurate. So this is the team. There's only 5 of us, so we're a small team, but we've got really big visions. We can't wait. We've got a lot of exciting stuff in the pipeline at the moment that we can't wait to get out. And yeah, there's always somebody at the end of the phone. We always want to hear your feedback. We want to know what we can improve, what we're doing well, because this is a continuous project that we want to continue to help all farmers. So yeah, just a quick one to leave you with. I was working on a farm in Wales last week, and the farmer came up to me and he said, "Charlie, I want to be a boring farmer." I was like, okay, right. And what he meant by that was he doesn't want surprises. He wants to wake up in the morning and know exactly what he can control and all the variables that he can control. And he said, if he knows that, then he's on top of his farm. And when I was driving home, I thought, oh, what is a boring farmer? And then I thought, actually, ruumi can help farmers control the variable that is their grazing platform. So I'm not calling you all boring, you're obviously not, but I hope you can understand the concept of a boring farmer and having control over the variables. Thank you very much. Questions, please, sorry. It's £1 a hectare a month at the moment, and that includes a free webinar from an industry expert. Over there. At the moment, about 3,500 we're accurate up to, but over that, yeah, it's not so accurate. I think, yeah, that will come in time. We'll become more accurate over higher covers. Yes. Oh, sorry, you say that.
How's it managed with multi-species lays?
At the moment, it's more accurate with rye clover lays, but over a more herbal lay, it's not as accurate, but you can still see the variation in the field of where the livestock has grazed and where it hasn't grazed. So you can still use it as a management tool to rotate your animals around. So,
Gareth, how do you manage stock on and stock off measurements so you know what your consumption is and recalibrate back to the satellite without replay metering?
At the moment, we are implementing the radar. That radar technology will help understand when there has been stock on, stock off, as you say. Currently, by going out with a plate meter and when your stock leaves a paddock and plate metering it and then inputting it into ruumi is the most effective way currently. But as you say, we're continuously developing to try and make that as autonomous as it can be.
Great, and I'm using it, I like it, so I'm going to try it.
Oh, thank you very much.
Not paid. The only thing that I find challenging, the hill farmers, dodgy signal.
Yeah.
Is there an app or anything coming that can be offline?
Yeah, we're currently developing an app. Hopefully it'll be ready in a couple of months' time, which we're excited about, which will be iOS and Android. So yeah, we'll cover all bases with that. Anybody else? All good?
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Charlie. Right, afternoon everyone, how you doing? Good, yeah. First days, we're still awake, which is pretty awesome. Yeah, I've been working with, helping ruumi out because they're interesting background, really techie guys, just not familiar with farming, but they saw an opportunity. They were frustrated by what they were doing at Mercedes, working on autonomous vehicles, and then they saw these farmers protesting in Munich and thought, well, farmers, why are they protesting? You guys got a cruisy life. You just drive around looking at stock and having a good time. So when they dug into ag, they realised there's some things we're doing which haven't really moved forward. So we've been measuring gas with a plate meter for nearly 20 years. And while some of us got very good at measuring, some of us haven't. And what not many of us are good at doing, even if we measure, is using that data to make decent decisions with. And when we measure, are we looking forwards or backwards? So we go up with the plate meter, is that current data or is that historic data? Yeah, historic, isn't it? You're measuring and you're comparing it to what happened the previous week. And when you're trying to make decisions, proactive decisions, we actually need to look forwards. And so this is the interest with what ruumi's doing, is being able to look forwards, developing models that predict pasture growth rates, so that you can say with accuracy, I should cut that field for silage, and I can wait 2 weeks until weaning, rather than guessing all the time. So yeah, what they're doing is a really interesting piece. So I'm just going to do a chat about where we are in context with the year, a little bit of pasture management stuff, and we'll take some questions on it. Hands up if you've got too much grass at home at the minute. Okay, cool. So how does that make you feel? Hands up if it makes you feel happy. Hands up if you're a little bit annoyed because it looks a bit messy. Okay. And hands up if you're sad because it's all gone out of control. Cool. So yeah, so the driving around, I'm privileged to be able to travel around the country. And my wife doesn't sometimes see it as a privilege, depending on which mood she's in. And we're seeing lots of examples. So we've got herbalaise going completely nuts, and we're doing a good job in cases of those. We've got ryegrass swards all going to seed, and we're frustrated that that's looking untidy. Do we mow? Do we graze it? Do we trample it? And then we've got ewes in grass that's maybe a bit too tall. It's not just tickling their bellies, it's tickling their ears, and sometimes worse. And what do we do in those situations? What are we aiming to leave behind? Well, yeah, I saw this on social media the other day. I thought it's a lovely statement. Thou shalt not fear wasting grass. So what you've done is the plant you have on your farms captures sunlight, it's converted that energy into something we can see, and it's grown. Well, that's a fantastic thing, isn't it? Because as it's done that process, it's put and pulled nutrients, and it's put some of those back into the soil. It's put some of the sun's energy back into the soil. And so that's only a benefit to the farm. Our only concern should be is getting the right type of animal on the right type of grass, or doing the right type of grazing with that animal. So there's no fear of wasting grass. If your farm looks untidy, that's not really a problem. It's only a concern if you've got the wrong animals in the wrong place. So it's being skillful with that. Who here looks at their dung? Cool. Yeah, okay. A very eager hand from you, Claire, but I know that's a personal that's a personal thing. Who here looks at that animal dung? Yeah. I find it fascinating on farm. Sometimes the dairy farmers are the worst offenders. Is that if we were in a shed and feeding a TMR, well, you or your nutritionist would be fanatical about dung consistency and colour, as to whether the rumen was performing well. And once they get out to grass, they're like, well, the grass is really lush. That's why it's going through. Well, it doesn't have to be. So, those of you that are concerned maybe the grass has got too long, look at the animals. If they're looking well and the dung is a good consistency, chances are things are going pretty good. And within the cattle scheme of things, this is positive because that dung feedback is really useful. And we know that a cattle stock class, particularly those over 12 months, can really tolerate a wide range of pasture heights and use them really effectively. And actually, we don't perhaps desire certainly even for finishing animals, to be on really short, ryegrass pastures. We're happy with some maturity. We're happy with some seed head. The seed head contains the energy, it contains the starch. It is the finishing ration of the whole crop that we can generate on farm at this time of year, so there's a benefit. With sheep, we've got a more challenging stock class because they're less tolerant, particularly if they're milking, of that taller pasture. But if we look closely and there's green in the base, then we just need to be careful that we move them on often enough that we're not making them eat the stalk, and we're within 2 to 4 weeks of weaning, so we can carry those lambs through. We're thinking about setting the farm up now for those lambs after weaning. So kind of embrace the mess, as the previous discussion was saying, on the farm, and just be aware of, have I got my animals in the right place? And look at the dung, look at the condition of the coat, and say, well, yes, it's untidy, but how are my animals doing? Because they're the ones that are converting this stuff and making you guys the big cash. Some of which you might like to give to ruumi. to make it easier to manage this feed on farm. So yeah, that's my takeaways. Look at the dung, get as enthusiastic as Claire was about her dung, and then don't mind the mess. If the dung's right and the animal's looking well, then you'll be in a good place. Cool, thanks guys. I'll take any questions of a grazing nature. Well, Charlie's still here, so any questions of a ruumi pasture measurement nature, we're happy to take as well. If not, someone can show me a bit. Looking at you, Ali.
I've got a question for you.
Oh.
I'll get you a bit if you've got a The question is where you've just got sheep, just sheep over your grazing system, and you've got a bit of that stock of sorts. What's the best way of dealing with that? I mean, obviously, you feel that you go to the top of the tank, so you not worry about that, let that get comforted.
Yeah, with any stock class that's milking cows through to cows and calves and sheep. I put milking cows and calves, milking cows and sheep in the highest priority stock classes a farm could have. So they're a lot less tolerant of more mature pasture. If you're close to weaning, within 2 to 4 weeks, you are effectively on the last rotation. It's the last time you're going to graze. If you have been grazing on a rotation, last time you're going to graze through those fields with the sheep and the lambs together. So be aware of what feed's on the farm. If you've got a lot of feed, then you can afford to be really lenient and move the sheep on a day before they've finished. So they don't eat any of the seed head. But they don't eat, well, they might eat the seed head, they're not eating any of the stem. After weaning, be mindful that you need to reset those pastures either mechanically or with the dry use, if you've got the facility to do so. So a sheep-only farm to manage is the hardest thing. It's much harder than a dairy farm where we can just feed in the parlour and balance out our surpluses and deficits as we need to. Good grazing management is better achieved with another stock class, but if that's not feasible in the business, then it's to be relaxed now, but don't keep the lambs back too hard, because it's the lambs that will suffer, and this is where we need that last bit of growth, so we can turn those fluffy gold bars into cash at weaning. Okay, any questions for Charlie whilst he's still here on the ruumi product? Okay, if not guys, it's to the bar. Cool, thank you very much.